everybody. And let me do this real quick. Backlash coming over here. Yeah, welcome everybody to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day to you. If you're out there celebrating, please be safe and know that we're out here rooting for you, and we're doing it for a positive cause, right? But other now moving forward, I want to say welcome to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're tuning in anywhere other than the YouTube channel, do me a favor, head on over to the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And you guys already know we have an amazing guest for you guys. This guy he has an amazing story. He does amazing work. And so if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section now before I bring them up here. I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. So now without further ado, guys, help me welcome my next guest, Mr. Pepper Bradford.
How you doing? How you
doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. It's like as I was saying, it's a very uncharacteristically cold Mississippi day. We're in the anything below 50 degrees, I turn into an icicle. So it's like 25 degrees today. I know.
I would like to say that it's ungodly cold, but yes. Realistically, out here in Colorado, we in low digit numbers today.
I don't know how you. Well, I live somewhere like that. If it's going to be, man wasn't made to be cold. Give me 95 degrees any day over.
I wish I could say that, but Colorado, honestly, Colorado is a beautiful place. We got the mountains out here, and there's a lot of people that like their skiing, they like their snowboarding, they like all the fun things that come along with it. Me personally, I like ice fishing, right? And I like to do sledding. I like to play bowling with the kids. We line the kids up and then you can shoot down the hill and see how many you can get.
Yes.
Type thing. It's fun until they start screaming and try to snitch on you and things like that,
Yes, no, I know that. I have kids as well. Never did kid bowling before. And ice fishing is just what you do when you try to get the cubes out of the sweet tea. That's all. Ice fishing.
Well, you got to try it, man. But Mississippi is good, man. I love going out there. I love the fishing. I love the people. I love the atmosphere when I go out there and things like that. A lot of great people to connect with. And plus, there's a lot of history there too, right? Mm-hmm. So now, before we get into your story, man, tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
My name is Pepper Bradford. I am, like I said, I'm here in Central Mississippi. Been here most of my life. I was born and raised here, and I love it. I moved away, decided to move back. We moved to South Carolina for a while. The Eastern time zone just messes with your head. Monday night football is like over at 2 a.m. Who could live like that? But anyway, been here most of my life. And so I have a mission, basically, a company and a mission called Godly Trading. And we are here to help men or anyone responsible for a family, essentially, fulfill the command from Proverbs that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And we believe that trading offers the best opportunity for anybody to elevate themselves and their family out of whatever financial situation they are in and put them on a path towards financial freedom. It's amazing to me that we live in an era where I've got a student, a community member in Nigeria, and he uses his phone because he never knows if he's going to have power for his laptop. And it's so amazing that anybody with one of these things can set themselves on a path through this amazing vehicle of trading to have a future financially that we wouldn't have that. We didn't have that 15 years ago, much less 50 years ago. So that's where I am. It's what we do. And I feel called to help. I say men, but honestly, my calling is for anybody who bears responsibility for a family, whatever family means. Maybe it's a wife and kid, maybe it's just you and the goldfish. But if you it when you're the one who people turn to for to be the responsible. My 23-year-old, right? He's got a Call of Duty group, and he's the responsible one. Hey, he's going to be the one bailing us out of jail. So family means different things to different people. And when I say father, I really just mean I'm here to help those who shoulder that responsibility that can be very heavy at times.
Right. Now we'll definitely get into that because we've talked before. I do a little bit of trading as well. I have my ups and downs, more failures than I have had successes. But, for me, it's like a learning experience, dealing with options and things like that. And I do it to learn how to generate wealth um,
Right.
for myself and my family, and to be able to do the things that I do, to fund my nonprofit and all of these different things. And there are times where I do struggle. Where I have had more losses than I've had gains.
The hardest thing that I spend my days combating, and I'm sure you probably in your area as well, is the mindset that I hate to harp on social media, because this is social media, and social media is an amazing thing, but social media does such a poor job of preparing people for the realities of trading, for the realities of losing a loved one. It's there's a lack of awareness of how important community is in anything, and I think that there's a mindset, especially here in the South, right? I'm a redneck and we're an individual, and we can do it all on our own. But you lose somebody, you don't need to cry about it. You just put on your cowboy boots and go to work, and you can do it all on your own. Well, we weren't meant to do this all. I mean, the Bible says at the very beginning, right after Adam finishes naming the animals, God looks at him and says, "That poor old boy ain't gonna make it on his own. Let me make him a woman." Right? So it is not good for man to be alone. We're not meant to shoulder all of these responsibilities, be they emotional or financial, on our own. But social media just says, hey, just do this, 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 and this, and you have a Lamborghini, and you can go and live the single life, the good life. And so it's like every day you wake up and you have to spend the first half of the day knocking down the myths that were built overnight. So it's almost like you're starting over every day. I know you probably feel the same way in your line of work.
Well, yeah, because in my line of work and doing grief work and things like that, the one thing that really keeps me going, because I have a really deep, a better, intimate understanding of grief. Grief is such a universal thing.
It is.
I love the way that I can connect with other people through conversations, to better understand what their grief looks like, right? Because everybody experiences grief on their own different levels, and you can experience grief in anything that you do, anything, right? The loss of job, the loss of of homes, and the loss of identity, loss of loved ones, and the list goes on and on and on. And I think that's what fascinates me and keeps me as a curious individual as we go through this universal connection. The thing is that convincing people or helping people understand the how much of a communal people we are, and getting
Yes.
people to connect and wanting to share and be vulnerable and be open, to the possibilities of healing, right?
How communal we are meant to be, but for
Right.
whatever reason, often, and maybe this is a men thing, very often we are prevented from it by our own opinion of what it means to be a man, I think.
Well, it's an embedded thing, right? Because you have to look at when we're children, who teaches us to man up? Who teaches us that, hey, if you cry, it's a sign of weakness, right?
Right.
So you have to remember, when we're children, these things are taught to us. Now, if you go back a little bit further, I was just talking to another brother of mine, and saying the same thing, like, brother, like, if Jesus wept and God wept, what makes us bigger than that?
Right. Exactly.
You know,
And
as
it was
as,
over.
as a
It wasn't
human
over a
being.
family member. It was over a friend of his. Now we don't know how close of a friend Lazarus was, but whether it was his best friend or just somebody he knew, he took the time to grieve and give the example of it.
Right. And
Who are
so
we
this
to not
is
do that?
what we do now, right?
Yeah.
We're changing the whole narrative, because we have to go back to those deep embedded teachings and go, hold on, who taught us this? Better yet, who taught them that? So this is a generational thing that we're
Yes.
trying to overcome.
To undo
Rewrite
hundreds of
the
years worth of.
language. Right. So it's a language, man. It's
It is.
definitely the language, and it takes individuals having conversations like this to go, hold on, maybe what I was taught was wrong.
Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe,
It is.
yeah,
It's
you know,
astonishing to me the different areas of my life that I am awakening that, hang on, everything that I knew about this might be wrong. And I'm
yeah,
50 years, just turned 50. I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm starting over educationally in things. There
uh-huh,
was there's a great fellow in the homeschool community. We were homeschoolers, and He was giving a talk one day about the benefits of homeschooling. And a lady came up to him afterwards and she says, hey, you went to public school and you're okay. And he goes, oh, yeah, I went to public school 50 years ago. It's a little different than it is now. He said, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he said, but I went to public school, I'm not okay. And the fact that you think I'm okay means you're not okay. And so there's all these, my wife and I use that example. Whenever we come across something, it's like, oh my goodness, I realized I'm not okay about that. And I didn't know that I wasn't okay till just now. One of the hurdles I overcome in the Christian community is, hang on, you're trying to make money. Well, Christians shouldn't make money. Well, who said that? I mean, anyway, so it's like this embedded, you're right. It's generational training that's frankly wrong, but we are raised that way. No, we don't question it when we're 5 that, hey, oh, you fell down. Well, your dad says just walk it off, right? Oh, you're bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, don't cry about it. Just walk it off. That's what a man does. And so you're raised, and you raise your kids that way, and they raise their. And so pretty soon, 50 generations go by, and no one's allowed to cry over anything.
Yeah. And again, you have to understand the people, or look back on the people who are teaching us these things, right? And then you have to look at their actions. Like we can look at their words. We can hear their words all the time, but you have to look at their actions. Sometimes their actions and their words don't line up. Yes. And so you have to be able to distinguish that as well. Like, okay, if the actions and the words aren't lining up, what am I missing? What are the missing links? And so you as an individual have to begin to explore your own humanity and what's outside of that, right? And so which now leads me to your journey, right? Because you've had one amazing journey in order to get to where you are.
Yeah.
So walk us through your grieving journey, and and the things that you had to overcome, but the things that you had to relearn as well.
It's interesting that where I got to right now with this mission to help mainly heads of households take care of their family. It started with the death of my parents, and I was very tight knit family. My mom died in 2008, just out of the blue. She'd had heart disease, and so wasn't unexpected in that, hey, we knew she had this heart disease, but just died one day. I mean, just turned off like a lamp. Mm-hmm. And that was 2008. That was very unexpected. And then my dad died in 2015. Now he had cancer, and it was completely expected. We kind of knew within about a month he wasn't going to live. So on the one hand, you've got this unexpected situation. And on the other hand, you have one that is, no, you never want someone to die and you never expect them to die, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Someone's got cancer. That their time is short. But the what it does to your head, I think that the craziest thing that happened to me. So I was 2015, that was 10 years ago. Oh my goodness. So I was 40 at the time, just turned 50. So lost my father. I had already lost my mother. I'm 40 years old. I got a wife and I got kids that are 10 and 13. And I'm suddenly feeling like an orphan. I'm like, what is this feeling I'm going through? I'm 40 years old with a wife and kids of my own. Why do I suddenly feel like an orphan? But I couldn't pick up the phone and call my dad for all these thousands of things that even at 40, I still needed his help on. And the contrast between the two, when my mom died, I ran home. I was about 3 hours away from my dad where we lived. We ran home, and I spent the next week propping him up emotionally is the best way I can put it, right? And so I sort of put my own grief in a box. Said, hey, I'm here for him. He just lost his wife of 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it was. I'm here for him. And so I did not at all allow myself to experience anything emotionally because I was there for him. Spent wake up in the morning, making breakfast, help him through the day. As a result, I did not realize that you can short circuit grief. I didn't know that was a thing. Never cried. I mean, it's like finally drove home after a week and a half of being with him. I'm like, I don't feel like I experienced the loss of my mother somehow. And it was very strange. And then I was a blogger at the time. I loved to write. I wrote a book. Hey, try to enjoy.
Nice. We'll talk about that.
But I used to just blog about it. We had a little family farm and the cows and sheep and whatnot. So I was blogging every day. Well, anyway, I wrote about the loss of my mom and the last time I saw her and the prayer that we went through in the hospital. It's all this nice thing. And didn't really, I was just talking about, didn't affect me emotionally. A year later, I went back and read that blog post and broke down in tears. And I felt relieved of the guilt of not having experienced grief over my mom's death, if that makes sense, right? So the only emotion I had for an entire year was guilt. Hey, you can't even cry because your mom died. Anyway, all that to say, so fast forward 8 or so years, 7 or 8 years, and my dad dies, and he had left us a small, like a payout from his life insurance, and I'd never had. It wasn't a lot. I guess it depends on what your point of view of a lot is. So I put some of this and said, hey, my dad was my biggest cheerleader when it came to investing and trading and whatnot. I mean, when I was a kid in the 6th grade, he was buying me newsletters, and he thought it was cool that his son wanted to learn the stock market when he was 12. So, well, my dad would want me to take this money and do something for my family, his grandkids, with this money. So I put this money in the stock market. I tried to learn the skill of trading, which I didn't think was a skill at the time. But I wasn't prepared for it. Investing your money messes with your head. There's no way around it. That half of what 3/4 of everything that I do is helping people overcome this barrel of monkeys in their head with their throwing bananas and making you do things you shouldn't do. As soon as you start trading, you start behaving irrationally. Anyway, what I was not prepared for was I had this lump sum of money from my dad's life insurance payout, and I took a small portion of it to trade with. And there was an extra layer of emotional guilt that every time I lost a trade, this money represents my father's life, and I just lost it on Apple. Well, who am I? I'm killing him all over again. So it was this like 6-month journey of not only am I trying to learn how to trade, but I feel guilty over the representation of the money is my father's life. So it was just a mess. That was just a mess in my head. And I'm driving to work one morning. Now, at the time, I was a day trader. I don't do that anymore. Moved on. But anyway, have you ever had a conversation with somebody in your head, and you think what you would say and what they would say back, and then and you go back and forth in your head, and then you get mad at them, and they're not even in the room, right? Somehow you manage to work yourself up into an angry fervor about this person for a conversation that didn't happen. Well, I'm a day trader, so I'm driving to work. Nothing's happened. I don't have a single trade happening. I'm thinking about the day's trade and what I would do, what would happen, and I'm just miserable. I'm pre-miserable, pre-depressed, pre-accepting all of this. I mean, it's just a cloud of gloom and doom. And then I hear the voice of God as if from the back seat. He's like, aren't you tired of feeling this way? Oh, yes, of course I'm tired of feeling this way. I'm miserable. And then he said the thing I didn't want him to say, which was, that's great. You have made this all about you. You tell people, oh, I'm honoring my father's legacy. I am taking care of my family, his grandkids. But at the center of everything that's happening is you and your pride. And until you lay down your pride, you're always going to be miserable. The thing that I learned that day is that you can't be the center of your own world unless you want to be a black hole that implodes on itself. So I had to learn to let go of all of that, keep everything in perspective, realize that, yes, my father died and this money came from his death. That doesn't mean it represents his life. And also, he would not want me to be miserable and trying to take care of his grandkids. So it was, and after I got out of that pit of despair and walked my way towards the light, I wrote the book to help other people do the same thing. The story of the fellow that falls in a hole and no one will help him. And then his buddy Bob jumps in the hole and he's like, Bob, what are you doing? Now we're both stuck in the hole. He's like, yeah, but I've been in here before. I know the way out. Well, then I felt encouraged to help other people out of that same situation. Now, I'm sure I'm probably the only person who's been nuts enough to equate, the death of a family member with trading and double guilt on guilt there. But I mean, it just shows that grief just messes with your head in ways you cannot be prepared for. Case in point, my mother dies and all I feel is guilt for not crying. My father dies. I go through the normal grief process and it just messes with my head 6 months down the road for something relatively unrelated. So, and then who do you talk to about it? Who can you, because at this point I'm thinking I'm the only human being on the planet who's ever been through this. So who am I going to talk to about this? And while prayer absolutely helps, the Bible encourages all of us, iron sharpens iron, that we are here to bear one another's burdens. So, but again, I'm a man. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm the provider. I'm the rock.
Mhm.
I can't take 10 minutes out of my day to fall apart. I got things to do. So you just sort of stick it in the box and move on with life and deal with it when it blows up on you, like it did to me that morning driving to work.
Right. You know, it is listening and everything. Like I find it fascinating because so many people, like everybody finds their way when grief comes around, right? Grief has a strange way of opening up the doors to the things that you are meant to do, right?
That's true.
You know, and everybody has their own little path that they're on when it comes down to that. And I look at it and I go, man, that's a beautiful thing because for myself and a lot of us like ourselves, we realized that grief was the pathway to our gift. And to be able to associate it in that way, it doesn't have to make sense to anyone
That's
except
true.
for you,
Yeah.
right? The goal is to get it out there so to show to be an example of what is possible if you allow yourself to surrender not only to the grief, but to the waves that come along with it to open up the doors to address those things and understanding the in-depth relationship that you now have with this,
Yes.
but also be open to what it's trying to give you, right?
And the thing that somehow we've all missed is that grief is universal, and
Mhm.
we know that intellectually, but in the moment when you are going through it, you honestly feel like you're the only one who's ever gone through this. You know,
Right.
I felt silly for having this particular element of guilt attached to some life insurance money that I was investing. I mean, I felt like if I tell someone about this and the way it's messing with my head, they're just going to laugh at me. It is amazing how isolating grief can be, even in a family. I had a wife and kids. All of us were going through my mom's death and my father's death. We're all going through it. And yet
Mhm.
I felt alone in what I was going through personally. And sure, part of it is, hey, you're the provider, suck it up and
Yeah, yeah.
and be there for them. Now, the sad thing is, what example did I teach my, let's see, that would have been 10 and 12, 13-year-old sons about grief? It was a very poor example. I mean, I would much rather have fallen apart and us all gathered together and put our arms around one another and cried together. But it didn't, right? Just, it's like, okay, grief is a checkbox. I got to do this and this and this and this and this. And it's just this logical progression of things. And we're going to move like a to-do list. And there's no
Well,
logicking your way out of it.
well, no, there's no logicking, but there is a checklist, right? You know,
Yeah.
like I found during my grief journey, and like you said, when you lose your parents, you feel like an orphan in the world, right?
Regardless of how old you are.
Right. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you just lost a significant portion of your life. The people who raised you and guided you and nurtured you, are now no longer there. At least not in the physical form.
I was
But now it's
totally
hard to
unprepared for that feeling.
understand. Yeah, it's hard to see the energy that's left behind by those that we love because we're too busy focusing on the physical aspect of it. And grief is one of those things that it's such a multi-dimensional thing that if you miss the doorways, you will only focus on one or
Right.
maybe a few things that come along with that. And that's okay. Look, grief is one of those things. It's okay however you decide to do it, right? Because
And I
it is
learned
yours.
from my mom, I learned that there are windows of opportunity that if you close them, you might not be able to open it when grief is not there for you to deal with on your terms, right?
Right.
Helping my father through that closed my door for grief for a year. And I could not force it open, until it opened on its own out of the blue one day reading a blog post. And it's like
Mhm.
for a year, I had been trying my best to grieve for my mother and couldn't make it happen until one day it happened in its own time. But
Right.
I realized that if you're not careful, you can derail what's a natural, a necessary process and prolong it.
Mhm. Yeah. But it's a process nonetheless, right?
Yes.
So wait, I love that you said that because then it segues into our own experience, right? Most people will go, look at other people and go, that's the way I'm supposed to do it.
Yes,
We look at it,
exactly.
oh, well,
That's what I
they're not
thought.
doing it that way. Maybe this is the way I'm supposed to do it,
Maybe I'm
right?
doing it wrong.
Yeah, maybe I'm doing it wrong. So then when we're not, when the way that we do grief or the way that grief does us, right, don't look like someone else's, then we tend to beat ourselves up. What am I missing?
Right.
What I found was,
Control me.
surrendering to the process, not worried about what anybody, because I didn't have anybody to guide me. I had no one to grab my hand and say that, like, do it the way that you need to. Fortunately for me, grief became my mentor. It became this guiding light for me. It was my gift. I didn't understand it at first, right? But it was something that had been with me my whole entire life. I just didn't never understand it. To be honest with you, Pepper, I thought I was going to be this world famous comic book artist, right? I love comic books. I love drawing. I love everything about it. I love making my own comic books. I love drawing portraits. I love doing that. Man, you can put a piece of paper in front of me and I can draw your emotions on a piece of paper, right? And everything that came along with it. And I'm self-taught. No one ever taught me how to draw. I looked at people and when, I think it was my first realization when my kindergarten teacher was like, oh, this is what we're going to do. And she drew stick figures on the board. My mama, I still remember this conversation. My mama looked at me as I was looking at the paper. She goes, baby, what's wrong with you? I said, Mama, we don't look like this. And she looked at me like, what do you mean? I said, we don't look like stick people.
No.
Why? And so it something didn't sit right with me. And I said, Mama, if we don't look like stick people and we look like that, why do I have to draw stick people? And my mama looked at me. She said, baby, you don't have to draw stick people. You can draw people any way that you look, any way that you want to, right? It's whatever you want it to be. So I said, okay. So what I did, I looked at that piece of paper. I took, and then you know how we used to have those long manila sheets and stuff like that from school. I took it and I balled it up. And my mama went out and she bought me the pack from Woolworth. That's the name, right? From Woolworth. Big old pack of 200 sheets for like $1. And I sat there and I began to look and I looked at my family and I started to draw the faces. Then I started to draw the bodies and put the clothes on them. Then I said, there's so much more to it. Like there's shadows. And I was probably about 3 or 4 at the time. So I started putting the little shadows in and drawing the little outlines in the face, right? The hair, the jawline and the way the lips curled and, the way that the light shine off your eye. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. I knew that's what I wanted to do. Animals the same way. And as I got older, I taught myself many other things. Now, I say that to say this because grief was the same way. Because over a period of time, I lost the feeling in my hands from fighting and, all the damage that my body had sustained from the traumas from being shot, stabbed, hit by cars and stuff like that, right? So I ended up fighting, I'm crushing the nerves in my hands. I lost the feeling. So I was so disappointed in myself because I was like, wow, I'm disappointing my family. My family looked at me as, hey, he's going to be a world famous artist. And then then when I lost everything, I was like, man, I was, so angry and things like that. Now, when I began to go along this grief field and it was started to reveal itself to me, it opened up a new door of creativity that I never saw, right? I don't have feelings in my hands to draw anymore, but what I can do is that technology has given me the resources to be able to be creative again, right?
Yeah.
I still use my imagination to put things out into the world. And what does that look like? Whatever I want it to. Now, when most people go along this path, they can go one or two ways, right? And sometimes you never see it in the darkness. You never see it. You never see the light in the darkness. And, it takes you to take that next step. And what happened, I have a long running joke now, because like yourself, I was an orphan in the world after losing my parents. And And then after losing my younger brother, then I became a bereaved father after losing my son. I said, man, what does this all mean? Now, it wasn't like I didn't go down a rabbit hole. Yeah, I tried to
Yeah.
take my life. I lost everything. I made bad decisions. Guess what, though? It was part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Can't nobody say that I didn't do it the way that I needed to, right? Because for one, I wouldn't be here right now. So I look at the journey, I look at the path, I look at the puzzle pieces that were scattered all over the floor, and I begin to put them together. And not everything fit at that moment. But over a period of time, as this puzzle began to grow, those pieces that I set off on the side, I realized that I can start to put them into place to complete this beautiful canvas. And now I sit around and people often get mad at me, those that care about me and things like that. I go, I now know what the dinosaurs feel like. They were like, what do you mean, Tony? I was like, well, I'm almost extinct. And they go, huh? I'm almost extinct, right? There's nobody else after me. My son is gone. I can't have any more kids. I said, so I'm almost extinct. So and people laugh, and I laugh about it too now, right? But boy, there's some people just like, oh my God, I can't believe he just said that. That's like, but it's true. It is very true. You have to have a really, really good sense of humor to actually get it. And it's the truth. When I'm gone, there's no one else.
Yeah.
But I'm
okay. Yeah, that's another element of, you said something earlier that we experience grief in different situations. And I think often we pigeonhole grief into, someone died, right? Some friend or family member has died. Well, there are so many areas of life that we need to recognize, hey, this is a situation where I've lost I lost my job, right? I lost this, it's things that don't deal with human beings dying, but there's still a loss of something in your life. Yes, and we have to recognize that that's going to mess us up. I lost my job for about 6 months. And, for people who have been employed longer than that, not a big deal. But for me, who was everything about my identity was the husband, the father, the provider, right? I was the one that was putting food on the table. And now suddenly 6 months and I don't have a job. And so my loss of identity, that 6 months was something that I needed to deal with and didn't, and it's amazing to me because I was fortunate. My kids were like 15, 16 and they had jobs and they're paying the bills. My wife was still having to work for the same guy that had fired me just to make sure that we could keep food on the table. And throughout that entire process, one of the things I learned was that, if God's got a plan for you, it's going to happen regardless of your opinion of what to happen or when it's going to happen. Because I kept everything I could to speed the process up. And, God was saying, in my timing, not your timing. But yes, one of the things that was amazing to me was we never missed a meal. We never missed a house payment. We missed bills, right? But we didn't get kicked out of our house or anything like that. We made it through there somehow. And the only piece of wisdom that I had the entire time, and this wasn't from me, it was from God. He pointed out the story in the Old Testament in Samuel where David takes a census of his army and God smacks him for it. Said, no, that wasn't for you to do. That was a sin on your part. And I, at one point, wanted to sit down and say, okay, well, the boys are making this much money. The wife's making this much money. We have these bills. I wanted to sit down and say, how am I, without a job, going to still steer this family financially? And God's like, I am taking care of you. Don't you dare step in and try to figure out how I'm doing it. Like, okay, let me step back. So the only good decision I made was to allow God to do what he was going to do. Because honestly, looking back on it, if I had just listened better and faster, we probably would have gotten through that quicker. I mean, it was all about, he was trying to teach me something. And my dad, one of his pieces of wisdom, I loved it. Time I hated it. Says, God speaks to us in that still small voice. But if you ignore the still small voice, he has a 2x4. And he's ready to swing. He's like, all right, Pepper, I need you to do this thing. Pepper, I need you to do this thing. Pepper, I need you to do this thing, right? And so, and that was me with the 2x4 every day. It's like, God's like, look, if you would just do the one thing I want you to do, which is trust me and let go of you trying to figure it out. And whether it's finding a job or making your way through the loss of a loved one, he's got a plan for all of that, a step-by-step plan for all of that. If we will just simply quiet our own minds and as men, stop trying to figure it out on our own. Early on in our marriage, I made this allegory to my wife that inside of every man is Bob the Builder and Dr. Phil, right?
Mm.
And they're both in a cage. And the reason Bob the Builder is wearing a hard hat, Bob the Builder, you know, the cartoon character, the kid show thing. The reason Bob's got a hard hat is because when Dr. Phil is out listening to my wife and she's saying things, and Bob is banging his head against the bars of the cage saying, let me out so I can fix it, right? That's all Bob wants to do is fix things. But Dr. Phil is there to listen. Well, I learned early on that's every situation. There's the I'm listening, I'm here to listen, and just whatever you need. And there's that Mr. Fix It. And all too often, whatever I'm going through, it's me as Bob the Builder talking to God. Hey, God, I know you've got this idea, this plan, but here's some blueprints I drew up. Can't we do it this way? And God's like, dude, just go back to your cage and I'll check in on you in another month. So often we think we can control the things inside of us that are completely out of our control. Grief is the prime example. It's not a flow chart that I can plan out next Tuesday at 3:00. I'm going to feel that way and I can check it off my list. And then I'm going to start working on the next one. Right. But yet as men, that's how we're taught. All right, we are here to fix things, and in a step-by-step way. I think that the artists amongst us, pointing you're over there, the artists amongst us probably deal with this better than the engineers amongst us. My brain is left brain, because we just want a checklist of tell me what to do and when to do it and how to do it, and it's like Lego, and then I'll be done with it, right? I'll just let me build my Lego set, instruction page by page, and when I get done, I'll do it real fast, and I'll be done. Whereas at least the right brain amongst us realize that there's some flow and ebb in this, and so much of my own journey, I have been my worst enemy. My expectations of being in control, I have been my own worst enemy, and I'm sure you've run across people like me by the thousands.
And the crazy part about it is that we as men, we do that all the time. We are our own worst enemies.
Yes.
Women will criticize themselves, but they have a beautiful way of speaking courage and strength into one another. That we as men, we look at it as a sign of weakness, as a sign of, what I'm saying, I can't allow you to do this because then you're taking away something from me. That's we often want to say that's my job to be able to do that for you, right? And
as a result, we don't know how to help one another.
Right. We don't. But we're changing the whole narrative on that now. You know what I'm saying? Because now there's more of us standing up. There's more of us going. There's so much to manhood than just the simple baseline.
Right.
You don't have to man up no more. You don't have to walk this path no more. You don't have to be strong all the time. It's okay to not be okay, right?
Yes. Like you said before, the prime example of Jesus, Jesus wept even at the very end in the garden. He said, Father, if it's possible to take this from me, please do it. But if not, thy will be done. So he was the perfect example of how we as men should be manly men. Mm-hmm. Big and strong fellow who's knocking over stone tables, cried when his buddy died. And at the end was saying, I would like to not have to go through this if at all possible, but I'm going to submit. And submission as a man is almost a curse word.
Right. Sometimes. And the movie that brings me to the movie, The Passion of the Christ, right? When Jesus knew that they were coming for him, and he went to his disciples, they said, "What are you about to do?" He goes, "I got to go pray. My flesh is weak." And he went off and he was praying. He was afraid. But what did he say when he prayed? He said, "Father, if this is thy will, it shall be done."
Right.
And he goes, but, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And God said, trust me. And so then came the whole, crucifixion and everything. And they had him up there. And I remember he was telling the one guy, you know, fear not, because tonight we dine in heaven. And the one guy, he looked up and said, and when he was talking to the other guy, the two thieves, and he tells that thief, because the guy was like, why are you here? And they begin to have the conversation. He said, you and I, we deserve to be here, but this guy, he doesn't.
Right.
And Jesus looked at him and said, no, we're here. We're all here together. And he looked up, because it is said that God turned his back on Jesus and said, and that's when Jesus went, why have you forsaken me?
Right.
And it's because of what he has saw. He has sacrificed. He carried on all of this ugliness and things like that. And God said, I can't watch you go through this. Although I know this is the way it's supposed to be, because this is what I said, but I wasn't expecting to see you like this. And he looked this way, and Jesus said, why have you forsaken me? And then the one final thing that we as human beings need to look at each other and say, forgive this person, for they know not what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you could take those words and apply to yourself, even in grief, because you know not what people will say things that's going to upset you. And it's going to maybe leave a bad taste in your mouth. But now look at those words. Forgive them. They know not what they do.
Yeah. Even if they're trying to be helpful.
Right. They try to be helpful, right? So people are relating to you the best way that they know how.
Yeah. And for me, that was one of the hardest issues for me to deal with, was my reaction to people who are very well-meaning but don't know what to say. And I love, we just finished a Bible study about 6 months ago on Job. And I tell people, Job lost everything. And his 3 buddies showed up, and they sat in the ashes with him for 3 days. I think it was 3 days or 7. Anyway, they sat in the ashes with him, didn't say a word. And that was a perfect example. And things only went sideways once they opened their mouths. So the example there, and the lesson that I learned through our own process of all going through that, is that there are no words that are ever going to mean anything to someone in the moment. It's the presence, the being there, sitting down, put your arm around somebody and keep your mouth shut is going to be the most important thing. And so I do my best now in those situations to recognize someone has lost whatever. Job number 1 for me is to be present and be silent, because until such time as they need a piece of advice, anything I say runs the danger of upsetting them further. Even if it's just, they're tired of people saying, what can I do to help? I mean, that was the thing that's like, so many people are offering to help, and just stop offering to help. I got irritated from other people offering to help. Now, how twisted is that, right? They're trying to help, and I'm irritated because that's the 10th person today that says, what can I do to help?
Yeah. Well, it's not a foreign thing, because it may feel irritating and things like that, but it's your experience. So it's acceptable, right? You know what I'm saying? Because you're dealing with emotions that you may not even understand. You're dealing with a situation that you've never been in before.
Exactly.
So how do you expect yourself to show up in these situations, and you don't even know, right? You've never done this before.
Right. You would think, okay, I lost my mom and I lost my dad, I should know what to expect. But every situation is brand new.
No, it's different.
Everyone.
It's different. So, when we look at this is, and see, here's what the challenge is. Everyone that experiences these things for the first time often have this preconceived idea of how it's supposed to be.
Right. Or that there is such thing as supposed to be.
Right. And well, it's just like this old term, act your age and not your shoe size, right? How do you want me to act my age? I ain't never been 50 before.
Right.
I don't even know what a 50-year-old is supposed to act like. I'm just winging it at this point.
It's funny, when we had our second child, I thought, okay, well, we learned everything we need to know with the first one. So the second one should be not a single piece of information from the first child was applicable to the second child. Like, what?
Not at all.
We're the worst parents in the world. It's like we're starting over.
Yeah,
But
not at all,
every
man.
situation is different.
Yeah, it is supposed to, and that's the beautiful thing about it, right? And we have these preconceived notions that this is the way that it's supposed to be. This is, all this, that, and another. And then when it don't work, we sit up there scratching our head. And then if you're anything like me, I just scratched my head to the point till all my hair fell out. And I was like, oh, this is.
Or we're saying, hey, it didn't work the way I thought it was supposed to. Therefore, I did it wrong.
Yeah, yeah. But the beautiful part about it is that, once we figure out that we didn't do it wrong, we did it just the way that we're supposed to, it usually takes a little bit of time. It takes us getting, like you said, it takes us being hit upside the head with that proverbial 2x4, right? Until we finally go, I'm tired of my head hurting. Maybe, just maybe, I'm gonna make a better decision in this run around right here, and just see where we can go from that point on.
Or
And,
someone that comes along
and that's why I
around you.
love grief so much, right? Because you will get hit upside your head a few times as you're going through it, right? You may lose everything. It's just part of the process. And if the purpose that you're embarking on is something big, expect yourself to fail along the way. You're going to get hit upside your head. Yeah. You're going to make some mistakes, and you're going to correct yourself. You will be corrected and redirected. You will be disciplined. It's part of the process. It's nothing to be afraid of. But that's why we as men, we have these conversations to help other men understand that, hey, what you're going through right now is totally normal. What you're feeling and what you're thinking is totally normal. You may be criticizing yourself because of the way that you feel, and you're telling yourself, I'm a man, I'm supposed to do this. This is what is expected of me. And then it takes men like ourselves to come in and go, take all the expectations and throw them out the window, my brother.
There's
let us walk with you.
Paul talks about
some different things, and then we become mentors to other people, and then they become mentors to us, because they're also teaching us other ways of how to help other individuals that are going through something similar to them. And it's a beautiful thing.
We're supposed to help one another. Paul mentions, bear one another's burdens. It's an area of temptations. He says there's no temptation befalling you except what's such as common to man. What he's saying is, hey, these temptations that you're going through, everybody goes through the same ones. And by extension, these feelings and the situations you're going through, everybody has gone through. There are no new emotions under the sun. Just because I felt like I was the only person on the planet who'd ever done it, didn't mean it was true. Right.
Right.
And we're commanded to bear one another's burdens. Mm-hmm. And so fulfill the law of Christ is what it says. And so honestly, if I don't allow someone else to do that, to come alongside me and try to help, then I am short-circuiting what God's trying to do through them. And it's just
we're doing exactly what we need to do, right? God is such a universal. It's such a universal thing. No matter how we do it, it is the way that it's supposed to be done. So as a human being, we have to let go of our human nature and see us the way that God sees us. Mm-hmm. Because those things that he tells us to have faith and trust in him, meaning he's setting things along the line that we don't even understand and we don't see him, but he's saying have faith. Trust.
And we may never understand it.
Right. And that's the hardest part, right?
Yes.
To follow those paths blindly, stay fixed on him.
Because as men, all too often we want to know the answer. Just tell me.
Right.
I heard a preacher one time talking about, when God called Abraham, he says, pack everything up, get out on the road, and I will tell you where you're going after you get out on the road. Mm-hmm. I'm like, it's me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no. Tell me where I'm going. Which highway am I getting on? Right. I mean, mm-hmm. Abraham had lots and lots and lots of animals and people that needed water that night. So, but he said, I will plan your route for you. You don't do it. And so all too often there's a great kids song from when I was in Vacation Bible School that says, he's still working on me to make me what he wants to be. It took him a week to make the moon and stars, sun and earth, and Jupiter and Mars. Anyway, whole point is that every single day we're alive, he is still working on us. And everything we go through is part of that process. But yet, all too often we feel like, well, I think this thing that just happened caught God by surprise, and he's got to figure out how to handle this. Well, it wasn't a surprise. It's here for some purpose. Now, we may never, I mean, you've had things happen to you, and you have, looking back now, seen a path that led to where you are. And maybe with the benefit of hindsight, I can now look at these things that happened to me, and I wrote a book about it, and it got me to that point. But in the moment, you're like, this feels so completely random. Why did I get chosen out of 8 billion people to go through this? And 5 years later, it's like, oh, well, that's why God did it. And as if he needs our approval for the thing that he's doing for us.
Exactly. And it's human nature. Crazy part about it is that God already knows. So when it comes down to it, it's not, we're the only ones that do that to ourselves.
Yes.
We're the animals trust, right? The animals are like, hey, y'all, maybe y'all should look at what we're doing over here and everything and kind of follow suit with us. But we look at animals and go, look at them, look at what they're doing, right? And we talk about the provision and things like that. I can't, even though we experience these things, we forget that we could be left out in the cold, and we'll complain about that. We could be given everything in the world. We're going to complain about that because we always want something different.
Right.
We really see the blessings within all of that because it may not look the way that we want it to be. I know for me, grief was one of those things. It didn't look the way that I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be painless.
Yes.
Until I had to spend many a nights curled up in a corner crying. I wanted to make sense out of it. Till I realized that I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I wanted to run and hide. And the only thing I did was ran from the shadows right into the light.
Right.
Right. But I learned how to maneuver. I didn't have anyone holding my hand, so I turned to the one person that I could. And I went, and I went, you know what? I just need a little bit of help. I just need a little bit of understanding. I just want the pain to dissipate for a little bit so I could sleep. And I began to pay attention to the dreams that I was having because I thought they were nightmares. And what they were doing is it was opening up a path of understanding, a deep embedded understanding for me to follow. So, and I realized that when I did that and when I opened up my eyes, I was on that path. So I began to pay attention. I put two and two together. Oh, okay. I saw this in a dream. Let me follow this. Now, most people will go through life and go, I can't even remember my dreams. And I was one of those people. I couldn't remember my dreams, but I realized that when I woke up, I was like, oh, I've seen this somewhere. That's right. It was in my dreams. Let me go back and remember that because I took these steps. And I began to move this stuff out of the way, right? And it revealed a lot of things that I didn't even know, but it also gave me opportunities for healing, empathy, compassion, failures, success, creativity, changing my heart. But it also gave me a sense of purpose and servitude to other people. And when I figured that part out, I went and said, okay, what do I need to do now?
Yeah. Yeah. The things we go through aren't just for us. Right. They're for us to use.
Yeah, it was there for you. It was there to use, just like how you did, right? You saw the other side of it because I would have never had thought about using grief in a way to teaching people how to trade, right? You know what I'm saying? To be able to create wealth in, through day trading, because I did get into day trading, but I was like, I want to be able to use this so I can generate wealth for my sister and my nieces. Like I generally didn't do it for myself, although, I would love the financial stability and things like that, and I've probably invested more money than what I've lost. That's fine, right? It happens. I didn't have anyone to teach me. Someone said, "Hey, you should download this right here," and and then we can do this, that, and another. And there was times where I did make a little money, but there was more times than not where I lost a lot of money. And so I was like, it is what it is, It's a learning curve, and
Yeah.
here I am, 6, 7 years later, still trying to figure it out, and I still make my fair share of mistakes, and I'm like, okay, I can't lose no more than what I've already invested, right? That's the
Yeah.
beautiful part about it. But just like many other people out here in the world, when it comes down to trading, there's a fear. There's a
Yes.
huge fear that I can lose everything that I put in here, not understanding that you can only lose what you put in, what you've already invested.
Yeah.
And you know what you're doing.
It is one of the biggest misconceptions that I feel like I fight every day is the fact that trading is a journey. Now, first and foremost, I tell people trading is a skill like juggling or cooking. Anybody can learn to juggle, anybody can learn to cook, anyone can learn to trade. It's a skill. That's all it is.
Mhm.
And once you bring it down to that level, then it's no longer nothing to be feared, and it's not something that only a certain group of people can do. Anybody can do it, but it takes discipline. Just like my favorite quarterback in the NFL, Drew Brees, right, would go out before a game and he would play the entire game in his head every single Sunday before he stepped out on the field. Just the absolute discipline, and that takes commitment, and you have to be willing to have slow progress. Most people, well, I say most, a lot of people get into this thinking, I'm going to be an overnight success. I see the social media, this and the guy with the Lamborghini and all that, and promising big returns. And trading is like every other area of life. It requires discipline and time. I based the book off of the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And it all starts with self-control, and all the other ones filter through that. And that is the journey. It's every endeavor in life is a journey. You're on a journey. I'm on a journey. I try to help people learn how to trade, recognizing and say, hey guys, I know that you maybe wanted to help your family out this year, but the good news is you're going to be trading for the next 30 to 50. If you're 20 years old, you got 50 years of trading ahead of you. So yeah, let it take 6 months to do the way it's supposed to be done correctly. But as with grief, as with anything, we want a short circuit. We want a shortcut. We want to just tell me how I get there as fast as possible. But when we miss the journey, we miss the building blocks that make us who we are, that can stay. Once we get to the destination, then we can stay there. So many people have success in trading, and then they lose it all. You hear the stories of those NFL players who are broke 5 years later after getting out of the NFL, right? They had no concept of money management. Just because you get to a point doesn't mean you can stay at a point. It's the journey that gets you there that makes you the person that can stay there. And yet, in every walk of life, whether it's with grief or social media or trading, we all want a shortcut. Prime example, I want to just tell me the check boxes to do so I can get through all of this grief and pain and come out the other side of it quickly. Well, there's no microwave mentality that's going to get you anywhere and miss the lessons that are going to keep that. Because what we're doing at the end of the day, we're changing who we are. If you this, the entire point of the Bible is our relationship with God and changing who we are, not changing God to meet our needs, but changing who we are to meet His. And that translates to every other area. It's a journey. It's a process. Like grief is a process. Learning any skill is a process. And I fight every day, it seems. I fight against that. Yeah, just give it to me quick so I can make money quick so I can go on to the next thing. And I'm sure have run across this 1,000 times. Let me get it quickly so I can move on to the next thing. Let me skip steps along the way. And there's no such thing.
There's no such thing. I mean, when I first started trading, man, I looked at it and was like, man, I can make some pretty decent money. And be able to do these things that I would like to do. I would like to travel. I would like to go buy the next next best fishing rod and fishing gear and stuff like that, right? Maybe I can fill up my fridge, right? You know what I'm saying? So I always looked at trading in ways of like that, and then I would look and go, you know what? I need a new car. Maybe I can make enough money to get myself a decent car, and things like that. But it didn't actually work that way, man. It didn't. Like I said, I had my few successes. There was a few things that I was able to do, right? And there was a lot of things that I wasn't able to do because when you may find that you may get lucky and get that one
Mm-hmm.
that's taking off, right? And then you ride it out. But then you're looking at the numbers, you're going, maybe I should stop it right now. Maybe I should do this, right? Man, there's been times where I've caught and rode that ride, man, and fallen asleep only to wake up to realize I just lost everything again.
Well, I mean, as with any journey, and like I said, the grief journey or any other journey, it is the process of the slow, steady work. I mean, Drew Brees didn't wake up one morning and be what I consider the best quarterback in the NFL. It was a lot of work. I mean, the entire reason he was at New Orleans was because he tore his shoulder on the last play of the game, of a meaningless game, and he spent a year in rehab just where he could move the thing. And I'm sure he wanted to jump over all of that rehab and pain and go right back to being an NFL caliber quarterback. But it was the journey that changed his mindset that made him a better quarterback in the end. And
Exactly.
It's the journey of ups and downs and recognizing that we are 99% of the time, we are the problem in anything that's happening. And whether it's the grief journey or the trading journey, the problem is us. But it's that being somebody new. There's a fantastic YouTube. He's a business coach. His name is Myron Golden, and he uses the example from Genesis: be, do, have. And everything that we have right now is based on what we're doing, based on who we are. And if you want to have more, sure, you can do more, but it all starts with being more, being different. And being different isn't instantaneous. It is every day waking up, making a decision to stretch yourself, follow your plan, be disciplined, have self-control. Just apply the 9 fruits of the Spirit. Love. How am I going to exemplify love today? Joy, peace. How am I going to be at peace with the people around me today? On and on. Faithfulness, goodness, self-control. How am I going to exhibit self-control today? And you get to the end of the day, and if I've done all those things, then I am a slightly more disciplined, better person. And tomorrow I get up and do it all over again. It is a slow, I tell people, successful trading is slow and boring. If you're excited about your trading, you're doing it wrong. My trading style is like watching paint dry. But change takes time. There is no shortcut to anything in life. Drew Brees could not shortcut his route to being a Hall of Fame quarterback. I can't shortcut my route to financial freedom. We absolutely cannot shortcut our route to getting past grief. And if you do, I suspect you're going to mess yourself up worse in the long run. If you try to skip a step in grief, it's only going to end up with you driving to work one day crying your eyes out.
But Tina, if you get a chance, go check out Tina Formworld. She is an amazing person, man. She's huge on TikTok. I'm going to be going live with her tonight as well.
TikTok's still around?
She has huh?
I said, is TikTok still around? I thought it got shut down the other day.
No, it got shut down, but then they brought it back. So, you know what I'm saying? They didn't want to deal with us petty American people. They did take it away, and American people was like, you want to play around? You about to effort.
My sons are that generation.
Right? You know what I'm saying? They messed around and found out that we petty. We was like, oh, you're going to take TikTok? We're going to Red Note. They didn't want to play that game no more because Red Note is ran by China. And so they brought TikTok back, which I thought was hilarious.
I guess that's good.
No, yeah, it was, man, it was just hilarious. And, it was just, I know, back up and going. But Tina Fornwell, man, she's an amazing, she has a podcast. She's really into the grief field as well. So if you ever get a chance, man, connect with her. You know what I'm saying? She does some amazing things. Tina, meet Pepper, meet Tina. But yeah, man, it's a lot more it's a lot more to this grief thing than what people really want to admit,
Yes,
because
it
grief
touches more
requires
areas of your life than you
right,
expect it to.
right, because it's everything.
Yes.
Grief is everything and anything, right? It depends on the individual and the emotional attachment that you have to it. And if you do have an emotional attachment to it, you are going to grieve because it could be something that you love. And if you love, you're going to grieve. If those things are taken away from you, you're going to grieve.
Mhm.
And it's such a shared human experience.
Yes, it is
But,
honestly the one thing that regardless of how we're separating ourselves in our culture, we can all come together for this one. Every single person on the planet
right, right,
grieves, or at
right.
least they should.
Well, when we can look past our humanity, um, or look into our humanity in a more connected way, you realize that although we may look different, we may live different, we have so many similarities across the board. And that's a beautiful thing
Yes.
because that's what allows us to have a deeper embedded meaning of humanity. And we can also respect other people's journeys in
Yeah.
this life. We can also participate in those journeys and learn, and but also give back. You know,
Yes. That's why
I
we go
could
through in the first place. I mean, how
right,
how helpless and pointless would we feel having gone through something and it to have no meaning? Oh, this, you lost your parents and you went through all this pain. Well, good. They just that I was just trying to teach you a thing. I mean, but no, God gives us those things to help other people. Because
mhm,
if it was just to torture us, well, what would the point of that be? Everything we do is to help other people. I mean,
right,
you know about being unified. I mean, the most famous verse in the Bible: "For God so loved the world, not any one particular group, but God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son." I mean, and we forget that all too often. We
yeah. Well,
divide ourselves.
if when you're in it, it's kind of hard to see it,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, that's true. In the
Those of
moment,
us that been beat up by it a little bit, while we were inside of it, we was fortunate enough to see the dots. We was fortunate enough to step outside of there and go, oh, okay, I had to go this way. And then I had to go here. Then you begin to put together this beautiful picture. Like I said, I view maybe for me, I just view grief a lot differently. I believe that grief and everybody's grief is like a canvas with all these mixtures of colors inside of there. Some are blended, some are not, some are solid, some are faded, right? You may have puffy ones, you may have not, straight lines and things like that. And I love the fact that it's like for let me put it in simpler terms. I love the fact that it's like a paint by numbers,
mhm.
right? You can move this color over here and you can move this color over there, but that's the process of healing and understanding, and that is grief, at least in my eyes.
Yeah.
When you get done, you realize that it's another version of you, and it's showing you who you are becoming,
Right.
right? And when you begin to put it together, you realize how far you've come, right? And you've sat back and you was like, wow, I started way over there 100 miles ago, and here I am in this moment, but I look nothing like I started with. But
Yeah.
that's grief.
That is so true. I think that all too often we don't recognize or accept the fact that we are going to be someone completely different. We are forever changed by whatever
Mhm.
it was, and there is no going back. That for as much as we want everything to go back to normal, we have to accept the fact that we ourselves are different and that the person that we were before is gone forever. Now, the new person might be better, hopefully has learned and grown, but grief cannot happen without change. And it's
Right.
supposed to it's supposed to involve change. And if you don't accept the fact that you are forever changed by it, you're probably never going to get to the end of the grief process.
Well, and I'm gonna add to that because you're absolutely right. The biggest portion is that when people are grieving, people develop they tend to hold on to safety nets, things that have
Yeah,
kept them
I can see that.
safe throughout their life, and things like that. And when that's become a way of survival, it's really hard to let go of those things
Mhm.
because you're like, if I let this go, I'm going to fall. I'm going to
Yes.
bust my head wide open. I'm going to get hurt again. Look, man, I say that because I've done it. I've been there and I've done it, right? I had been hurt so much. And I think most of us have, so when I say this, I'm not just going to put myself um, in the individual lane. I'm going to use it as a universal thing. Most of us have been hurt so much by life and by people that we do tend to resort back to survival tactics.
Mhm.
Things that if we hold on to, it gives us a sense of security. It's hard to let go of those things because,
Yes.
like, if I let this go, who else is going to come and hit me in my forehead with that 2x4? Better yet, not only who's going to hit me in my forehead with the 2x4, but who's going to hit me in the back of the head with the 2x4? Is it both going to come at the same time and things like that? The beautiful part about it is you may not know.
Yeah.
You may not know during this journey. And I'm pretty sure you can relate to this, and most of us can. During this journey, you will go through thousands and thousands of people that's going to mistreat you, that's going to verbally and mentally beat you up, tell you that you're not going to make it, tell you, this, that, and other, talk bad about you, drag you through the mud, right? Those proverbial kicks and punches to your faces and things like that, those stabs in the backs, they hurt. It's going to
Mhm.
happen. It's going to happen. If you've gone through it and you're on the path of healing and you're trying to do something in servitude, it's going to happen. It's bound to happen. You're going to have thousands of them. And the crazy part about it is that out of those thousands, there's going to be probably two or three that genuinely want to see you heal, want to see you be successful, want to see you genuinely happy. The problem is that now we've built up these walls that these people look just like the other ones,
Yeah, true. That's true.
right? And so it's a matter of being open, trusting the process, going through the process, and opening up your mind to something bigger than what you thought, and saying, no matter what, I am I am going to trust the process. I am not going to not give people the opportunities just because this one did it. And after a while, you become tired because life will test you. It's going to throw everything at you, including the kitchen sink. And there's
Mhm.
going to be times there's going to be a headstone thrown at you. Take that, and you may
Yeah.
catch it. Like, whoa, would you throw this one at me for? I don't know. It was there. It was in the way, so I threw that at you. But, and I say that to say this because when that headstone gets thrown at you, you begin, at least for me, and you tell me what you think about this. When I started to look at it, I was like, wow, I have my birthday, but there's this little dash in between. I don't have a death date yet. I wonder what that is. And so I was listening. I was listening to David Goggins, and people have heard me say this before. I got to a point in my journey to where I said, you know what? I want to outwork the chart. And I heard that from David Goggins. I said, you know what? I want to outwork the chart that God has for me. So when I do transition out of this world and I go before the creator, I want I want the creator to say, man, I had you here. I didn't see the rest of it. I had to sit back and watch you and ride this thing out while you were doing it. I had
Mhm.
you at the podcast and I had you at author. I had you, but the rest of it, I had to sit back and watch. And I want to look at the creator and go, did I not serve? Did I not do, did I not leave my gift out into the world? I didn't come with anything. I'm empty. I'm all emptied out. I have nothing else left. Even when you fulfilled me, when you kept filling in my cup, I gave it back out. Did I not do what you called me to do? And I want the creator to look at me and go, not only did you do that, but you far exceeded my expectations. So in between that dash, I wanted to say that. because I'm not trying to inspire people. I want to be an example that if you want it in this world, no matter what you're going through, if you can embrace your true gift, you can have whatever you want in this world.
Mhm. Yeah, it's true.
Time.
Yeah, I mean, we're all. I think
I know. We got to wrap it up. I know you got a busy day today, man. And we can talk forever. But so before I let you go, man, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, just go to godlytrading.com. It's the hub for all the various things that we're doing. One of the things that I'm trying to help is to connect traders together, because I said, especially as I think as men, it can be isolating. We think we have to do it alone. So we've got a free Facebook group anyone can join, and it's just there for us to come together and say, how are we doing? What's today been like? You don't talk to me about the ins and outs of this stock versus that stock. What were you feeling today? So a place for us to support one another, because we talk about it all the time that we need other people to help support us. We think that we can do it on our own, but we were never intended to do this on our own. So I'm trying to encourage community where people can come together and support one another. But yeah, everything is the hub there, godlytrading.com. Get the book there, you get the Facebook community. So I am in this to try and help lighten the load a little bit for those people who feel that weight of responsibility that, I've got a daughter and she's 2, and I've got a multi-$1,000 wedding in 20 years. How am I going to afford that? I've got kids that need braces in college, and all of this weight of, and starting now and going down that process with support. There's a way towards financial freedom. And it honestly, it's simple but difficult, much like the grief process. It's simple, but man, is it hard, right? Simple and easy are not the same thing. And as anything in life. So trading is the same way. So yeah, anybody go to godlytrading.com. We've got stuff there. I put out all my content on for free on YouTube. Anybody can go watch our YouTube channel is linked there on the website as well. And yeah, I'm just here honestly to help anybody. If you just need to talk, I'm happy to jump on a Zoom call and talk to anybody for any reason.
Yeah, and I do have your information down below in the YouTube channel. So again, if anybody's tuning in, if you haven't already, go to the YouTube channel, give me a subscribe, support the channel, help us get the word out there.
I appreciate that.
Before one last question, before I let you go, I love this question. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
If I had a superpower, what would it be? These days, just getting out of bed in the morning without hurting. I mean, I think the guys with super strength, right? Just being able to here we go. Patience. Is patience a superpower?
Hey, patience.
I would love
a superpower to be whatever you want it to be, right?
Yeah. There's a scene from the opening of The Incredibles, and Mr. Incredible's like, what do you want? He said, I just want the world to stay safe for 5 minutes, right? I just want to be able to make it through the day without running out of patience. So that superpower is patience.
I love it, man. I love it. That's a beautiful superpower, because it seems like nowadays everybody's in such a rush to get to where we need to be that we sometimes forget to look at the beauty around us. So patience is a great superpower. The world is
going so fast. I mean, I turned 50. Where did the last 49 years go?
Look, we ain't gonna talk about that. I'm still trying to get past the transformer cracks and everything sounds in my body right now. Okay. Yes. Oh man, look, man. Thank you for joining, man. Thank you for the conversation and everything. We got to do this again. Everybody, again, his information is down below in the YouTube channel, so go check it out. And with that being said, guys, we're going to close out this episode of Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. And we're going to see you guys in the next one. I have one coming up at 1:00 in the afternoon. And so guys, tune in for that one as well. And then I will be on TikTok with Miss Tina Forward tonight at 5:00, 7:00 Eastern, 5:00 Mountain. So if you follow me on TikTok, go over there, check it out. We're going to have an amazing time. And we're going to see you guys in the next episode. Love you and thank you for your support. Peace.